Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. 1 week ago, TCM welcomed writer and historian Donald Bogle in to promote his new book, Hollywood Black: The Stars, the Films, the Filmmakers. Shortly after our shoot, we learned director John Singleton, who wrote the foreword to Donald's book, died just days after suffering a stroke. Singleton was not only a talented filmmaker, but a vitally important one. His loss will be felt for some time, and we want to pay our respects to John Singleton and his family. Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Thanks for joining us on TCM. Tonight, we have a special guest, a frequent TCM collaborator. He's written a new book for us, Hollywood Black: The Stars, the Films, the Filmmakers. Please welcome Donald Bogle. Donald, thanks for being here again.
Thank you, Ben. It's great to be back.
The first movie we have from 1943, directed by Vincent Minnelli, Cabin in the Sky. Why is this picture important?
Well, you know, Hollywood had not done many black cast movies. And there had only been, before Cabin, 3. Hallelujah, Hearts in Dixie in 1929, Green Pastures in 1936. And then Cabin comes in 43. There was also Stormy Weather in 43.
Also 43, yeah.
So it's a kind of event. And the other thing about it is that we have this great cast of these performers, each of whom is really at his or her best. And this movie is, it's also a cultural document.
How so?
Well, because some of this would have been lost to us, because it's well shot, and they really want to, Minnelli wants to showcase the talents. And so we just see these people at their dazzling best. It's especially interesting with Ethel Waters. Ethel Waters was a big star. She had this voice, and she started singing, and she climbed on the old black vaudeville circuit, and she crossed over in a way that black stars, particularly African-American women, had not. I mean, she really set the standard. The other thing about Ethel is that she didn't work for 6 years after this film, but when she comes back in Pinky, she plays the grandmother. This is 1949. She got an Oscar nomination as Best Supporting Actress, and that was the first time since Hattie McDaniel, when McDaniel had won for Gone with the Wind. But nonetheless, she goes to Hollywood in the 40s. She's getting over an unhappy romance, and she wants to do movies. She's no spring chicken, certainly not in Hollywood terms.
Right.
She's in her 40s, and she's heavy. And so what's going to happen with her? She does Cabin, and Ethel was a very difficult woman. And there were problems on the set because Ethel felt that Lena was getting preferential treatment from Vincent. And there's a great moment in this film where Lena is, in that sequence, is looking, you know, cute and adorable and everything. And Lena says that Ethel's character is just jealous because she ain't got what Lena's got.
Right.
And Ethel says, and remember, she's heavyset, that she's got everything Lena's got.
She had a sexuality and a sensuality to her. You don't see it so much here.
You see it in that when she dances.
You do, right.
Because when you see her dancing in that sequence, you're sort of shocked that, you know, this full-figured woman can kick her legs up and can move her hips and so forth when she dances with John Bubbles. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to see.
And it's a nice reminder of sort of how Hollywood sort of limits sexuality and sensuality by its definition, that you have to only look a certain way, otherwise you are sort of pushed to the corner in only certain types of mothering roles.
Yes, and you know, one thing with that, I credit naturally Ethel, and I credit Vincent Minnelli, that in that nightclub sequence when Ethel dances, they are calling a lie to something Hollywood has done. And Hollywood has said that older, heavier, browner black women had no sexuality.
Right.
They could only be mammies. And Minnelli goes with her and lets her have that moment on screen.
Minnelli was very conscious. There's a very specific quote from him that I'll summarize, but he was very conscious in taking on the movie. Again, it's his first film he directs. He directed some sequences in Judy Garland movies, but this is the first feature he directs himself. He was very conscious of reinforcing stereotypes in Hollywood about black actors.
Cabin is a move forward. Now, it's 43, we're in World War II, and particularly in what was known as the Negro press, they're talking about images in movies and so forth, and the idea there has to be a change. And Cabin did represent a kind of change, but we still do get stereotypes.
That's still 1943,
Yes,
yeah, that's right.
Because even Eddie Rochester Anderson, who's a terrific actor, he's called Little Joe.
Yeah, right.
Throughout, and in some ways he is emasculated, and not so much Rochester the actor, but what the script is saying. And we get the gamblers and so forth. So it does have these types, but they've been softened.
All right, Donald, let's take a look at the movie. Here it is from 1943, groundbreaking musical directed by Vincent Minnelli, Ethel Waters, Eddie Rochester Anderson, and Lena Horne in Cabin in the Sky. Welcome back, everybody, and returning to discuss Cabin in the Sky is my guest, historian and writer Donald Bogle. Donald, thanks again for being here. So, I don't know if it's the most famous scene, but it's certainly one of the most famous scenes, and it wasn't even in the movie. Lena Horne in a bathtub.
Bubble bath.
Singing. Shot by Vincent Minnelli, but then removed from the film. We couldn't have a beautiful black woman
yes,
taking a bath.
Precisely. There's a kind of sensuality. It's not vulgar.
Yeah, and it is exactly the kind of scene that you would expect to see from
any other star.
From Rita, Ava, Marilyn,
Betty
Grable, certainly, right?
Yeah, you would have expected.
Cabin in the Sky, produced by Arthur Freed from the
Freed unit.
Freed unit at MGM. $680,000. Making this one of the cheapest Arthur Freed musicals, and a big reason for that is you didn't really have to pay the cast like you would have in a normal MGM musical.
And it doesn't look
No, it doesn't look cheap
or inexpensive. It has a wonderful look to it. And so so that was another thing about it that made it important to see these performers showcased in this particular way, and by the great studio, MGM. It was not a tremendous hit. But the interesting thing is that Lena Horne said that when she toured army bases, black soldiers would say they had seen this film and what it meant to them to see something that they could connect to in another way, and stars that they really valued and loved.
Lena Horne had a tough time in Hollywood for all the right reasons for her. She didn't want to play the same kind of role. She didn't like being limited, as Hollywood would limit black actors.
When Lena Horne came, when MGM signed her, and she was going to be a new day in the movies, that Walter White, the executive secretary of the NAACP, did not want to see her play maid roles. And MGM did take certain precautions with her, and they tested a makeup on her, which they could never use. Lena said they could only use it for white actresses playing mulattoes,
right,
that it was just too dark. And they photographed her in a certain way. But with all of that, Lena just didn't get to play roles, and she really wanted to. And for her, it was very frustrating. In later years, she indicated how basically unhappy she was.
That meeting with Hattie McDaniel really gave her some very useful advice.
Lena went to see Hattie McDaniel at Hattie McDaniel's invitation. And the whole thing was that many black actors working in Hollywood at that time, playing comic servants, they feared that Lena Horne's success might mean the end of their work, and in some ways it did. But Hattie McDaniel invited her to her home to talk to her about the situation and to encourage her. Lena Horne said it was an exquisite home. Hattie McDaniel was so gracious. She was an intelligent woman. And Hattie McDaniel knew a change was in sight, and it was going to really mark the end of her career.
Impact her career, yeah.
Yes. And she told Lena Horne, she said that on screen she played a mammy, but in her own home, she was Hattie McDaniel. And she told Lena to just move forward, to do what she had to do. And Lena Horne always said that this was so important to her, and it was so encouraging. And she just never forgot Hattie McDaniel's kindness.
Donald, great stuff. Thanks very much. Up next, Donald and I return to talk about another film he highlights in his new book, starring Dorothy Dandridge and Harry Belafonte.